Hello, friends. How are you? How's life? Let me know. I like hearing from you. We haven't talked about books in a while. Here's the Kindle. Well, I mean, we talked about an audiobook that I read, but I listened to. We haven't talked about books I've been reading in a while, and I've read quite a few. I think that at year's end, I'm going to be at about 80 books read, which is, I mean, and maybe even a little bit more if I read a bunch this weekend. I am reading some Ed McBain books, and they're usually pretty quick reads, like a couple hours. So I might fly through a couple of those, but whatever. I want to talk about the John Decker series of books. I did a video about these books. I don't remember how many I had read at that point. I think I had read. Let's see. What Vengeance Comes? Cold Sanctuary. I think maybe I'd only read 2 or 3 of them. And I have now read 6 in the series plus the novella. So I've read 7 of these books in the John Decker series. These are written by Anthony Strong. I don't know why I'm showing you this. There's nothing to show you there. These are written by Anthony M. Strong. And they are a book series about a monster hunter, a modern day kind of monster hunter named John Decker, who is a retired police detective, or not retired. I mean, he was yeah, I guess so. He doesn't do police detecting anymore for various reasons. And he ends up being hired by an agency called CUSP to go investigate strange phenomena. And I gave this series a very positive review the first time we talked about it because I had a lot of fun with What Vengeance Comes, the first book in the series, where there's a supernatural creature that's been killing people, and John Decker is the police chief of the town, or the deputy, or the sheriff, or whatever, and has to figure that problem out. I read Cold Sanctuary, the second book in the series, where he ends up, first kind of working for somebody else who calls him up and says, "Hey, can you come help us?" And he goes and does the thing. And then I don't know if we talked about Crimson Deep. Maybe we did. I don't think so. Wait, what was Crimson Deep about? Which book is this? Hold on. We're going to figure this out real quick because I think that it matters. What was this book? This book was about... Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've got What Vengeance Comes, Cold Sanctuary, Crimson Deep. The first 3 books had a blast. They were just kind of silly, popcorn summer movie adventures with some cool creatures and some interesting setups and some interesting relationship, dynamics and very kind of complex characters. I mean, as much as these books are kind of like horror movies, like not necessarily slasher films, but they're kind of horror movie-ish. And so with as much characterization as you can have in there, I would say that one thing that I like about Anthony's writing is he does do a lot of point of views. He'll give us victim point of views. That slasher scene where the monster comes out and kills the random guy. But instead of it being a random guy, he gives us a good couple pages of that person like going through whatever they're going through and giving us like a little bit of insight into that person, making you feel like it's that person, and then the person gets murdered. And you feel it every single time. You know it's coming. He sets it up and you go like, oh, this is going to be another guy that died? Yeah, there it is. And he does a lot of fakes. Like, oh, I open the shower curtain and there's nothing there. Oh, great. Now I'm dead because the thing was behind me or whatever. There's a lot of that. Whatever. It's part of the genre. It's fine. But let me read to you the next 2 books in the series to give you an idea of where this headed. Grendel's Labyrinth and Whitechapel Rising. So, the first couple were just creature stories about whatever, and then we started getting into mythology that is kind of, I don't know. Do we need to go there? What's wrong with the creature feature? I guess Grendel is a bit of a creature. Whitechapel Rising is obviously Jack the Ripper is back kind of thing. And then the last one, Black Tide. I enjoyed Black Tide, actually. Not the last one. The last one I read, Book 6, Black Tide. I actually enjoyed it. But here's the thing. What I've realized is I'm now 7 books into the series. John Decker does almost nothing in all of these books. He stumbles his way through things. He's not a detective. There's no real detecting going on. There's no real mystery going on. In Black Tide, there kind of is. There's a little bit of a mystery, and there's a little tiny bit of a payoff, but not really. John doesn't solve the case. I mean, he solves it by being an idiot, but he's just kind of dumbs his way through things, and then ends up in situations that he has to get himself out of. He's not very good at detecting. He's not an investigator. He thinks he is, but he's not. And you could take his character out of the book, and it would pretty much resolve the same way every time. He's just kind of an idiot. And I'm kind of tired of it, honestly. It's just, at some point, he needs to actually do something, actually do some detecting and solve something, instead of him being in a place where somebody else solves something, which is how almost all of these play out. Somebody else figures out the thing, and he just goes along as like kind of the dumb muscle. And I'm, it can be fun and be rompy and be interesting, but at some point, I would like to see him be intelligent and maybe do something to solve the case. But again, these are called thrillers, not mysteries. They're not really intended to be mysteries. They're intended to be thrilling, and they're intended to have, scary scenes and whatnot, which they do. And I think it works well for that. I will say that the 2 books 4 and 5, the Grendel thing and the Jack Ripper thing, were just kind of like, I'm not feeling it. Like, these are just exposition, boring nonsense. Characters that are doing really dumb stuff, and you're like, yeah, I get it. You're an idiot, whatever. But Black Tide did bring me back around, other than it was set on the ocean floor in an experimental laboratory, and it just felt a little cramped and weird. Like, it felt like maybe Anthony didn't understand how diving works and what's involved with being at depth, or something to that nature. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm being an ass, and he actually did his work. But as somebody who's had a scuba license for 30 years, I felt like, this isn't. And it was a little too kind of futuristic. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think I will continue reading them at some point. They're good little just stupid books to pick up and read. But there's also, like I said at the start of this, I've been reading some of Ed McBain's work, 87th Precinct, and then he wrote like a whole ton of other books that are just standalones. He's a very good writer, and this is pretty amateur. Anthony's an amateur writer. Like, he doesn't. You can tell that these books all need an editor. They need an editor very badly. But he's a good writer. He's just, there are other writers who are writing similar books that are much better authors. And so I'll probably read some more Ed McBain for a while before I come back to this. But if you're interested in the series, I definitely recommend it. It might be your hit of the year. I mean, I was really into it for the first few books. Like, this is super fun. And then that weird Grendel book was just kind of like, I don't know. Everybody's a little too dumb in these books. Like, they don't see the obvious thing that's happening right in front of them. And then they're shocked when it happens. And you're like, okay, cool. I guess that's how horror movies play out anyway, isn't it? What do you think? Let me know. Thank you for being here, as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you next week, Monday. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We are learning 10 actions that always bring happiness. Number 3. Define your own meaning of life and pursue it. Don't fear failure. Fear a lifetime of mediocrity due to a lack of effort and commitment. There are so many people out there who would tell you what you can't. Turn around and say, watch me. Yeah, but maybe don't be so manic about it. I've been that person. Maybe just go, cool, I'll do it, and then take your time doing it and enjoy the process. Don't rush in and try to prove somebody wrong tomorrow. I speak from experience.